Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and come on to do another video. This is called the Greco-Roman Jewish Jesus. And a lot of times, people would like us to forget the Greco-Roman part of Jesus, and they would like to clean it up and say that it was completely Jewish. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So keeping in mind that we're talking about religion, and when you talk about religion, you should have a drink. So let me crack a cold one, and we'll get on with it. So I think that reading Greek Religion by Walter Burkert. Walter should be Walter, because it should sound like a V. Sorry. But he's pointing out some interesting things, and I'm learning a lot, because when I went through and read the literature, you don't get the whole view, simply because here he includes archaeology. And I'm a literature guy. I like biblical archaeology, but I have never really gotten into learning about Greek, and I like archaeology from the ancient Near East. I looked into that when I was studying the Ugaritic texts and the Canaanite literature, so it had something to do with it, because they're reading off of and translating from what they dug up. So that was pretty interesting. But here it's something different, and especially the idea of the temple and hero worship. And later, the Romans would grab this, and as past kings have, turn it into imperial worship and imperial cults. And it comes from this kind of idea of hero worship. And Burkert talks about it here in this text. And I'm going slowly through this book because I'm learning a lot of amazing things. And since I've read the literature, when he makes references, I say, aha. And I'm putting a lot of stuff together. And what I find interesting is that the Greco-Roman culture did a full circle. They borrowed heavily and absorbed a lot of the ritualistic and mythological motifs out of the ancient Near East, absorbed it, processed it into something that they would find meaning in, and then reapplied it. And then when they ended up conquering the parts of the Near East, especially when they tried to force assimilate the Jews were heavily monotheistic, but the Greeks were like, well, we can't have that. We can't have monotheism because they won't assimilate and they won't get along with anybody. But we have the answer, and probably they didn't think about it all that much. We have absorbed sacrifice and sacrificial rituals from the ancient Near East. It's almost the same, so let's just try to implement it through forced assimilation. It didn't work, because what they didn't know and what they didn't take the time to think about is that it was not the same, because it got reprocessed. So they tried to force it down Judaism's throat. Of course, there was the rebellion and whatnot. So this is what's interesting, because I think that people who say that Paul had this awesome background in traditional Judaism is false. He may have a little, but more, he's applying Greco-Roman views of ritual, belief system, and hero worship to further the idea of Christianity among its new believers. And you can even tell, reading the New Testament, the Greco-Roman influence if you've read a lot of this literature. You'll be underlining stuff and chuckling about stuff all the way through. And something simple like the shout from heaven at the birth of Christ. It could be related to in parts from the hymns to the gods, Homeric hymns like Apollo. Elements of that, motifs can be reprocessed and put in because they're writing to a Greco-Roman community. So what I wanted to do is some of this is going to ring a bell, and you'll say, aha. So here on Burkert's Greek religion, page 205, the hero cult, like the cult of the dead. And in stopping here, Greeks, Romans, seen early Christianity as like a cult of the dead. The hero cult, like the cult of the dead, is conceived as the chthonic counterpart to the worship of the gods, and is attended by blood sacrifices, food offerings, and libations, and the preparation of a bath is often found, and weeping and lamentation are frequently attested. The main event, however, is the cultic feast of the living in the company of and in honor of the hero. So, there are Greco-Roman, based on that, there are Greco-Roman influences in, say, the ritual of the Last Supper and the washing of the feet, maybe. And even right down to Paul's vision along the road. With the appearance of the hero, he has a profound experience, and he goes back. And even the ascension of Christ, the hero being elevated. Now, the difference in Greek to Christianity, Greek, Roman, they would go to the Elysian fields, the land of the blessed, which is different from dwelling with the gods on Olympus and having a seat at the right hand of Zeus. Only a few have done that. Hercules was one of them, and the sons of Zeus, Castor, and I believe it's Paulus. I'll put the right. I believe it is. I believe they call them the Dioscuri, the sons of Zeus, or the sons of thunder. Reference to that you can find in the New Testament, which was unwittingly probably left in there. So those few people have made it to live among the gods. But if you were a hero, you were immortal, you were in the grave, you went to a type of paradise, but you didn't get to live with the gods. But the heroes, if worshipped, could help you from beyond the grave in later additions into Greek theology and in Roman theology. So the early, you were just a fluttering spirit floating around, kind of like that you find in the Odyssey when Odysseus comes down. He has blood. He has to give him blood, the spirit's blood, in the underworld, so they remember who they are. They're just floating around. But later, by the time you get to Aeneas, it's not like that at all. And that's an interesting topic, too. So we talked about forced assimilation. The Romans did it also, and we'll see after I take a sip. So the Romans, copying the Greeks didn't have a problem with the Romans copying. They seen it as an honor. But what's interesting is they ended up inserting themselves in the Greek line with the hero Aeneas. And Aphrodite sleeps with Anchises and has the hero Aeneas. And in the Battle of Troy, Aphrodite comes and yanks Aeneas out when he's going to get his ass kicked by the spear-piercing Diomedes, one of the best heroes in the Iliad. You have to read it. So she saves him, and Diomedes gets to strike her hand and wounds her, and she goes off crying to Zeus, and the mortal yells at the immortal, "That'll show you, Aphrodite, to come in here and mess with men if you're not prepared for battle." He taunts her. And so they connect themselves with Aeneas, and after Troy falls, and the whole Aeneid is composed. So they directly insert their lines. So they say to the Greeks, yes, you guys are awesome, but we still are descendant from a hero. And descendants from heroes pretty much show up in all cultures. All cultures. Ancestral worship, definitely, So if, for example, you wanted to start a new society, migrations coming in, you would move the graves of your heroes and plant them, say, in a marketplace, the most important spot. And if you didn't have heroes, or if you had two different said tombs in two different cities, or if you wanted to abolish a culture and integrate them into a new, you would say, no, forget about those heroes. Here are 10 new heroes that you can be associated with and follow. And you create ideas and make up stories for those people to follow. And it works rather nicely. I believe that they did it in Athens. So that's what happened, I believe, in the whole start of Christianity. You had the Eleusinian mysteries, cults happening, Bacchus cults, all of that going on. It's nothing new. And they knew that when they were writing and composing the New Testament literature. And Jesus ends up being this type of hero that is followed. And we still do it today. Just like the Greeks and the Romans, putting people in the afterlife that could help us here with saints. So even though we would like to think that we're monotheistic, in ways we follow plenty of polytheistic ideas. Idea of the Trinity. You could simply attach the name of Zeus to your hero. So while you're worshiping the hero, you're also worshiping the deity. Iphigenia was like that, and Artemis, and Zeus Agamemnon. And yes, these tombs may have been empty, but that was not the idea. The idea was the deeds of the hero and the uprightness of the hero. Sometimes heroes were heroes for doing terrible things, and if you did that, you could be punished in the afterlife. There were 3 that were being punished in the afterlife when Odysseus went there. The first murderer, where you can read about that. But anyways, very Greco-Roman, and I believe that the Jewish side of that comes in trying to portray the hero as being rooted in Jewish prophecy, so to speak. They went back, just like the Romans did, found some things that they could attach to their hero, say, look, we came from this, which may or may not be true, and the whole thing about being grafted in, it was grafted in. So, again, when this whole package of culture is handed to Judaism, pretty much they will refuse it again, as they have been for 2,000 years, because the stuff keeps going around in circles, and the ancient Near East keeps being handed back to them. And I just find it interesting. So be well, friends. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully this turns out. And remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.